Hi, Sarah. Hi, Tong. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, Tong.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been a
Oh,
pleasure. And today, Tong is our special guest, and we are still on the theme of passion and purpose. So I think that's the theme that a lot of people can really relate it to why they change career, why they do what they do, and why they just walk away from things that doesn't align to their purpose. But so we're gonna start the show like every day. We're gonna have Sarah, but to be really quick, I want to say that we have decided to dedicate this show to support Refugee Film School. If you want to know more about how you can support Refugee Film School, please click on www.refugeefilmschool.com. And that's the platform we are supporting because both Sarah and I will come from a refugee background. So we're very passionate about the cause. So we hope you are helping us help the people that who are in limbo in status right now as a refugee. So without further ado, Sarah.
okay. Thank you, Lee. Hello, everybody. And it's good to see you. My name is Sarah M. I'm from Cambodia. I went through a very challenging time in my country when Cambodia was under the Khmer Rouge communists. When they came in, they turned our life upside down and they basically destroyed us and destroyed our country. So I was struggling to survive and finally was able to escape. And with that, my goal, my purpose and passion is to find freedom. Because if I don't do anything and I just accept what happened to me, I will never find freedom. So that's how I get here, come to United States, legally, of course. And I arrived in 1981, 40 years ago. And about 6 years ago, I was able to publish my book. And here it is, How I Survived the Killing Fields. It's available on my website, sarahm.com. And if you want somebody to inspire your audience, I'm always open. And I want to share a message of hope and resilience and passion and purpose. So that's my message. That's all I want to share today. Back to you, Lee.
Well, thank you, Sarah. So my name is Lea Tran. I am a co-host of this show. Both of us get together last March and we started this and has not been stopping. I want to do a little plug for my book. My baby is turning 1 this month. So last year around this time, I was launching my book and a whole year of COVID. It's I've been confining my baby in this very spot. And we have not get a lot of chances to go out to speak, to spread the great news, to talk about diversity and inclusion, to talk about kindness, to talk about what people have treated our family when we first came here 41 years ago. And well, we finally did a little bit, me and my book, my baby, did a little bit of that in this summer, and hopefully we can actually do more of that. But it is, the whole entire message is pretty much that you can find opportunity in the midst of adversity. We all have adversity, and COVID is an adversity, but it didn't stop us from going out. We went through Zoom, we went overboard, we go everywhere. We're overseas, we're podcasting, we do everything. So nothing can stop you if you determine to be out, and you can bring whatever your baby project out to the world. It's all in the mind. So today we have far and distant person Tong, I met her from a LinkedIn connection. Believe it or not, she reached out, and I am so glad that she did, because we have very, very similar mindset, and we have very similar passion and the purpose in life. The only thing is I'm a little older. Okay, maybe a little more older than her, she is. But Tong, welcome to our Surviving to Thriving show. How are you?
I'm great. I love the name of this group, and I was having goosebumps when Sarah was sharing her story, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, what a deep and strong story she has. And then I connected to your story as well, Lee. I'm sorry, I kept on calling you Leah, but your name is Lee. And I'm just really grateful and feeling blessed to be on this with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that many of us have gone through. We have crossed the oceans. We have crossed the jungle in our head. It doesn't have to be physically. Some of us did do it physically, but many of us actually are crossing the ocean and the jungle by themselves, and they're not alone. So I know that you have some story to tell. You have a lot of things that you have to straighten out when you were young. So tell us a little bit about your story, and how did you cross that ocean of struggle, of things that to get to a place where you are now.
Sure. My name is Tong Holzinger, and I was born in China and I grew up there. So a little bit about my background is I grew up, as all Asians probably can relate, I grew up in a really rigid, traditional family. My family was poor, and my mother took control on almost everything. When I say everything, I grew up, this is something I talked to Lee about, and she was saying like, you're so spoiled. So I grew up without knowing how to boil an egg. I never washed my own underwear. I was forced to just focus on academic studies. So no friends growing up. I could not hang out with anyone. To a point, I felt like there's no privacy. There's no choice. My choices were taken away. I was told what to do, what to study, who to date, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's right, what's wrong. My whole value system and my beliefs were implanted in my head without me having the choice to choose what I want to implant in me. So growing up in that environment, of course, as an unconscious little child, you want to please your parents, especially in this case, my mother. And as I became a teenager, I realized I want to rebel. Like it's just that rebellion side of myself wanting to come out, wanting to find what is the truth for me. So when I turned 21 after college, I decided to run away from home, and it was based on a trigger. You know, my mom read my diary as I was going home, and she was putting shame on me, saying, you did this so wrong. I can't believe you did this. You know, I raised you, I gave you everything. So I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of guilt trip inside of me, but that was the event that really pushed me to, there's no better words for it, to want to escape from that control. And so I started my life in another country, which is South Korea. I lived there. I studied more. I got a job, corporate job, and then life just started, you know, again, almost 10 years, 9 years after that, I got laid off from a corporate job. That's really the moment when I leaned back and I thought to myself, why did I hate my job so much? You know, do I really want to do this again? Who am I? You know, what am I supposed to do? So that got me really think. And I transitioned into something like totally different, a creative field, became a makeup artist. And now I'm a coach helping women. That's a long story short.
No, this is beautiful. And I want to do a little discussion here with you. It is funny because the reason I say that you were spoiled, because I came from very opposite. Like I am the oldest, so I tend to do a lot for everything in the household. And I did not know that I was resenting in a way, and I was very obedient. And my family is just as rigid as any family in the whole entire China and Vietnam. Well, my family is also Chinese. So I totally hear you. It doesn't matter you are only child, or you're the oldest, or you're the youngest, or you're the middle. Chances that your parents want to control every single breathing moment of your life. And that is something that I really like admire you, that you grow up in 21 years old and you already have that rebellion. I didn't rebel until I was in my 30 and 40, and very little by little. And I was looking back, I was like, you know what? Nobody want to be told what to do. It doesn't matter who, young or old. And I think the mentality is we were put in a form, we were molded, and we were molded to think, we were molded to do everything. And at some point we start to resent. At some point we start to want to fight back, because I was like you, I went into the career. I didn't hate it, but I didn't find joy in it. So tell us, how did you break loose to go to Japan or South Korea without your parents really like disown you?
Yeah, that's a long story. I had to run away because, you know, my mom really had this strong hold of me. She literally would, you know, here's just a little short, like a screenshot, quote unquote screenshot. So you get a glimpse of what was going on. When I was in college, I was living in a dormitory, and back then there was no phone in the dormitory. Now my mother would call, and it's in my city too. My college is in my city, university, but she wants to check in on me every single day, that she would call the store outside of my dormitory to get someone to get hold of me and get me out to answer a phone call so that she can feel at ease. Mm-hmm. It was a very, it's almost like dictating, you know, she wants to watch every single step I walk. And I had to run away without her knowing. If she knew, she could get hold of me and persuade me to go back, to guilt trip me, to say, I'm not doing something right. How could I do something like that? So without anyone knowing, I had to make some new friends. And my new friend helped me to get to South Korea and start,
oh my
you know,
goodness.
No one knew.
I
literally run away from my parents.
Yeah. But I think, you know, I bear that resentment for a long time until I wrote my book. Tong, I want you to understand, your parent loved you tremendously. And I realized that my dad, why he was so strict, because he was so protective. He was so afraid that something's going to happen to his children. Like we couldn't even go to my grandmother's house to sleep overnight. That's how strict he is. He always want to have his children by his side. And, you know, I didn't understand that. I hold that resentment because I felt like, you know, the whole world is let the kid moving around. Why did you just confine us? We couldn't do anything, you know, until I am at the age that I sit down and write my book, and I put a lot of thoughts in there. And it's because they were, I don't know about your parents, but my parents went through a lot of trauma when they were young. Mm-hmm. And if you look and ask your parent, they might have the same problem because something devastating happened to them when they were young. Their parents, their family, some kind of trauma, PTSD are causing those kind of behavior. Mm-hmm. And I want to say that, you know, it took me a while to understand, and it is not easy. But are you making peace with your parent now? I mean, is everything okay now?
I think okay from, you know, how it can be at this point.
Mm.
I realized when I shared my story in the earlier years, with friends, no one could understand me. They simply said, it's so normal for a mother to worry about her child. So they couldn't understand how strong the control was that I had to literally run away. At this point, I've talked to a lot of coaches, and I've went through a lot of coaching program myself to heal and to make peace. It is what it is. I mean, I definitely understand where they came from. They came from a place of love. They came from a place of wanting me to be happy.
Right.
They came from a place, they only knew what they were taught. So they used the same thing on me. I understood that. But there's also part of me accepting what it is instead of trying to reconcile, because I tried, but the funny thing is the other side doesn't always accept what is. They're still living in the old regime, or they're still living in the old cultural condition. So they wouldn't understand what is that I want and is good for me. So I have to come to a place of, peace within myself, accepting what is, and go from there.
So I assumed you came to United States. You have family member here?
No, I'm the only one.
Well, I truly want to say that, first of all, I want to thank you so much for being so vulnerable and bring your story to the light to all of us here. That, I mean, sometimes it is so hard to tell a story that you feel the shame and the guilt, and talking about parents and talking about your own culture and talking about but there's a lot of Chinese Asian family are still like that. And believe it or not, when I have my own child, somehow I see me in my parents, and that was frightening. That was so frightening to me. And that's why when I did my book, my son wanted to do a podcast with me, because he didn't understand why I was so, I mean, to him, I was control, right? To him, I didn't think I was control, like a fraction of my parents. But to him, because he's born in United States, he's a Western teaching. He has no understanding of what the Chinese or the culture, the tradition of parents are in control of everything. It doesn't matter if your parents are 100 years old. If they still can think, they still want to be the household decision maker. They will not let go for anyone to take that over. So that is very normal in a sense. So I think in a sense that, I feel like I come from a place of limbo. It's like and I think you are too, because you received the Western, some sort of teaching and education, and China was on the road to contemporary civilization. I mean, it's prospered and interact a lot with the Western culture. So things have been shifting, but some parents still very reserved. They still very thinking the old way is the way, it's like that's been happened for thousands of years. So did they ever come and visit you? And I assume you marry here, right? Because you have the last name, it's not Chinese at all.
Yeah, that's right. No, like I mentioned, there are a period of time where I really tried to reconcile with my dad. I grew up and he was in and out of my life. They had a really traumatic relationship. So a violent, dysfunctional family. That's where I grew up too. So it was very difficult for me to reconnect with my dad, because that part of the connection was lost.
Yeah.
And now for me, try to force it to happen, it just doesn't feel natural to me and to him. Yeah. And for my mother, she is at a point where she just wants to settle in, like she just wants to be where she is. So it's a little bit different, unfortunate in a certain way, but once I'm able to accept it, it's okay. Yeah. Because to me, families are not just blood related families. You can make your own family members by choosing who you want to support and be supported with.
Exactly. And I think, sometimes we give too much power to our family to control us. Yeah, I mean, little by little. And I think especially women in the East, that they cave in so much. And that's why I love about, how you are also being a coach to maybe influence some of the younger generation that who has the same problem that you had. And maybe you can prevent some, reconciliation with their parents, with their children. So
I think it's not I totally agree. Women do caving a lot more because that's we were conditioned from a younger age that as a girl, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to dress up like this. You're supposed to say this and not do the opposite or say the opposite. You're supposed to be choosing this kind of person to get married or choosing this kind of job to develop your career path. It is, cultural, but it doesn't have to only be cultural. I feel like even if, put it this way, my path could not be happening in China. It was the inner desire of mine that wanted to do something different and be something different. And that inner desire is my true self. Now I realize that. Before I thought of that only as a rebellion part of me. But now when I look back, I knew, that really is my true self. There was always something inside of me wanting to come out to just be
now
me.
let me ask you something. So understood that me, you, and millions of other girls, women, like Sarah too. I think Sarah is in a very special condition that her mom and her family, they don't have this kind of thing. And that's very rare in a sense. But how the statistic in China, I mean, parents are still very much treating younger female very same way, like the way your parent did to you, are still very control, or they have shifted, they have changed the mentality of raising a little more in the contemporary way?
I think even back then when I was growing up, my mom was one of the extremes.
Okay.
So with my classmates, had their own freedom to hang out, to make friends, to do sports, to do whatever after school. I was pretty much always the only one who had to go back home because I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to do anything else. Especially nowadays, I think more and more parents are not controlling their kids, but in a way spoiling them with the one child policy. There's only one child. They give them whatever they want.
Not just the flexibility, but anything you want.
Yes. It's very different.
So going back to, do you think that because your mom's and your dad's relationship was kind of rocky, that's why she was so protective of you? She was afraid that something, if you date somebody wrong, if you hang in the wrong crowd, you will completely ruin your life? Is that, you think that's something that she has been thinking?
I think it definitely played a huge role in how my mom projected her resentment and anger on me and my brother. A huge part of that is from her relationship with my dad, that she didn't feel like getting married with him, but somehow they got married and they had 2 children. But perhaps another part of it is from her parents, how she grew up. We never get to explore that more. When I ask her the question, she would just dodge around, and sometimes they don't like to talk about it too much, especially my dad. So, but that's what I assume. Yes.
Yeah, it is hard. That's why I feel so connected with you when I talk to you, because like I said, my book has said plenty of that. And I determined that we can break this mold. We can definitely break this generational curse, because I think that is curses from generation passing down. And what they do best is using that guilt trip, that guilt weapon really working well. And all my life, I've been caved into that guilt.
Yes.
And sometimes you learn from what you saw, right? I mean, it's like, so I am guilty of sometime, and then I stop. I nip myself in the butt as soon as I'm starting. It's like, oop, stop saying that, because we got plenty of like, sure, yeah, don't call your mom. Sure, don't visit your mom. It's okay. She, like little things like that. What good is it? But Chinese parent does that all the time.
Yeah.
Either they threaten you or they give you the guilt trip.
Yeah. I literally just made a LinkedIn post today on the guilt trip part. I said I get triggered by my mom's voice all the time. Used to be. That was one of my biggest triggers.
Yeah.
And even when I don't call her or I miss her phone call, then it's the feeling of feeling anxious, guilty.
Right.
That I did something wrong, that I didn't call her to make her worry. And then I realized what caused that guilt is not my condition. It's the condition she planted in me.
Yeah.
I had to identify.
Gave her the power. We totally gave her the power.
Yes. Because we were unconscious.
Yeah.
Right. Because up till a child is 7 years old, completely unconscious, you can mold them however they want. However you want them to be.
Yeah.
And they will be yours for the rest of your life, like literally. Yeah. So once I realized that guilt trip is not from me, it's from her, then I can separate it. I can be aware and have the intention to separate that and say, when I really feel like calling her and have a conversation, then I can be more joyful. I can give my all. I know. But when I don't feel like it, simply acting based on obligation alone does not make me feel good anymore. So
I have to say that it took a lot of years, but my mom had totally turned around. So hopefully, I think your mom will too. I mean, I will call my mom when I feel, like you said, I am in total control. And many times she understands, because I would just explain it to her that I wasn't sitting around and just not answering your phone call. I have a life. So when I'm free, I will call you back. And, lately she's been super nice. So I think there is a silver lining. I think it's just a reflection of how we treat them, how they treat us. And sometimes communication in the heat of the moment is not a good communication. You're going to have to step away and wait until a better time. But so now you are a coach, and do you see a lot of clients that will have in the same predicament?
Yeah, I do. Actually, it's all about like a lot of my female clients from before. The main issue they've been facing, and it shows up in their work, is they don't speak up. Like when they feel like they're underpaid, but they're doing a lot of tasks that other people don't want to do, and the manager simply toss it to them and say, okay, you can do it. You want to do it? Here you go. You have it. But they can't speak up their own voice to ask for it. Why? Because they're too obedient. They've been so conditioned that they're not trained to speak up their own, what they need, literally.
Yeah.
So it shows up a lot at work.
So a bulk of your clients people are still in China or here in America? Here. Mm-hmm. But they still carry that culture, that mentality with them.
Oh yeah, it's generational. It's there's a saying, I'm not going to quote because I can't remember exactly. Cultural or generational thing is like that people's words living now.
Yeah.
So that's how much it's affecting us. Mm-hmm. It's from generation by generation by generation. We're all following the same path. Yeah. It's scary.
Well, we are breaking it, and you are definitely breaking that curse, because all it takes is the awareness. I think, you know, if you understand them and you know that you can control yourself instead of let them controlling you. Sometimes we train our mom how to train us.
I gotta be honest, I have given that up. I tried.
But so if you have one advice for our audience who are in, hopefully nobody's out there that has been trapped into this condition, but if you are, please reach out to Tong, because she can definitely help you. And if you have one advice for them, what would be the most important things to do now?
Yeah, so I think a lot of females, I'm speaking to women, right? A lot of women, if you sometimes feel some sort of inner conflict, like it doesn't feel right. I feel like I'm being controlled, but I can't speak up, or I can't do this. Something is holding me back. Watch out those inner conflict. There is a really strong and important message right there. And the reason I want to share with you that you do have, or I do, we all do have this inner conflict, is because your true self is trying to come out. Your true self speaks truth, speaks who you really are. All these conditions, whether it's from your parents, the society or culture or generation, that's like jackets you're putting onto yourself as you're a little kid, and you wear it like your second skin. But when your true self trying to speak to you, it creates this inner conflict. So there's something very important for you to know. There is, you gotta be able to take these jackets off. For many of us, we don't even know we're wearing different jackets. So that's the biggest problem. We'll live until we were in our 40s, 50s, 60s sometimes, and we felt so unfulfilled, so unhappy. Something is just not right. And that's because your true self wanted to come out for so long, but you never let it. You never realized.
You totally speak my language, girl. Oh my God. Nobody knows how much inside conflict. I mean, it is the inner constant fighting with yourself, because like I said, the Eastern and the Western, and they just keep chattering in your head. And definitely break through, take that armor out of, toss it, do whatever you, and grow with your skin. I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. And the way to do it, I want to live with you with the how to do, like step 1, 2, 3, right? So that you can practice it by yourself, if you will, is to write down your inner conflicts, literally write them down. And what voices are talking to you? Because when you have inner conflict, there are two voices talking to you. One is saying, I don't feel good doing this. The other voice is saying, you should do this. If not, then you're going to make someone else feel bad. Something like that, guilt trip you, pressuring you. Number 1, so write this down, is write down your inner conflict. Number 2, step 2 is to check each voice, question, is this voice mine? Let's say, if you don't do this, you're going to make your mom feel bad. If you don't do this, you're not a good daughter. If you don't do this, you're a failure because your parents expect you to walk on this path and get married, whatever. Is that really yours? Question that. Ask yourself, hey, is this my voice, or is this what's taught to me? Once you're able to write them down, then step 3 is you get to choose on which voice you want to keep as your voice. You're going to keep the ones that aligns with you, that doesn't make you feel guilty, that doesn't make you feel regretful, doesn't make you feel shameful, but makes you feel like at peace. So that's the step 1, 2, 3.
I love it.
Leave with you guys.
Beautiful. And I think a lot of time we were raised by our parents, but this, take it out the step further. We do it to our spouses, to our bosses, to our superiors, to our subordinate, to our children. Unconsciously, we are doing it everywhere because that's what we were being brought up. And we use that relationship to everyone, to our friends. So step back, take a conscious mind and do the 1, 2, 3 step, like what she just said. Beautiful. And I think, you know, we can get through this generational guilt, blame, shame, all this stuff. And it's just the time to do it now. Don't wait.
Yeah,
I have one question for you.
sure.
How did your brothers handle the pressure? Did he receive the same treatment as you did?
He had more freedom as a boy growing up. Yes.
Yeah, being a female and in China or Vietnam is almost like a curse.
But in the same way, you know, how my mother is, she treated everyone the same way that in the family. It's just my brother had more freedom, but he still has a lot of conflict with my mom because how my mom is and because how my brother is, literally.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot of dysfunctional is not even the word is
It's not close enough to even describe.
It's not close
right?
enough, yes. But that is something that I think is rectifiable. You know, all we need to do is just step back and re-examine that we don't have to carry that torch to pass on to the next generation.
I love
we
that.
can stop it right there.
Yeah, you can unlearn what you have learned.
Yeah, reprogram.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, unlearn and reprogram. I love those two words. Exactly. But we have to have the intention to understand what we need to unlearn,
Right.
what we need to reprogram first.
Right.
The identification part.
Yeah. So thank you, Coach Tong. That was really, really good. And like I said, thank you so much for bringing your such a personal story out. It is really a tough subject to talk about. And I can understand you because I sat on my book for a long time, talking about your parents, your family. I mean, it's like, we don't say that bad people. We're just saying that the way they were taught and the way that they brought us up, there's a lot of flaws that they instill in us. You know, all of this is not, we are not even go close to the place that, you know, our self-worth and our self-doubt and all those things that is creating a cascade of other problems, not just the relationship problem, but so many things that we're doubting ourselves. So understand the first step is that they're not bad people. They just love us in the wrong way, and they just use it. They just didn't know how to exercise the way they do, and they did the best they could.
They absolutely did. I think the main focus is not for us to point fingers at each other and to say, you did this wrong and I did this right. You didn't love me the right way I deserved. Yes, that's going to be a process for you, for everyone who is going through the same thing, to come to the conclusion that it is not about them.
Right.
It is about you. It is about your life.
Right.
And everybody has a purpose. And if you are living in your parents' dream, you will never be able to fulfill your purpose. Therefore, you're never going to feel happy and fulfilled.
Yep.
So it is your life. It's about you. How do you want to live it?
Completely 100%. I love it. Whoa. Thank you. Oh my God. This has felt like I'm talking to my mirror, to myself.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me on this platform.
Oh, thank you for spending some great time with us. And I think, you know, hopefully our audience can just, you know, maybe contemplate on whatever we talked today, and no need to blame yourself or blame anyone. You are 100% have the power to control everything in your life. Yeah, don't forget to check on the Refugee Film School and see how you can help support the refugee kids in Malaysia. You know, all the information is there. So we thank you so much for being with us today. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.